Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of our High Level Masterclass. If you're new to our world, maybe you've seen a ton of our different virtual events happening on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or other platforms. Welcome to this one. Masterclasses at High Level are really special, and it's because we bring in really smart people to teach us something very specific that our high level users and those that have been with us since the beginning can implement in their business immediately and see a result from it. We bring in folks with expertise. And today I want to introduce you to my guest. Maybe you've met him, maybe you know him, or maybe he's brand new to you. But his name is Alex Schlinsky. He's here ready to rock and roll with me. And Alex is a seasoned sales coach, agency owner in our high level ecosystem. He's a high level customer, and he's also hosted high level sponsored events. So he's very familiar with what the pain points and the process is to bring on new agency customers and new SaaS customers. What's really nice about this is that he's published a book called The Anti-Hustler's Handbook, and it's been dedicated to helping entrepreneurs build their dream business. And what's really nice about this is that if you're an agency owner or a SaaS owner and you have one customer, 50 customers, or thousands of customers, you'll be able to take bits and pieces of this training and apply it to your customer base and repackage it as needed.
100%.
So without further ado, let's get into this masterclass. We put this episode masterclass together. We've called it the 5 steps to maximize your sales. And everything we're going to be going over here has everything to do with the mindset, the strategy, and the key steps you need to overcome this seasonal sales slump that you may be experiencing or that your customers may be experiencing. And the goal of that is to maximize your revenue all year long. So let's jump into it, and let's hear from our expert, Alex Schlinsky. Help me give him a warm welcome. Throw it in the chat if you're excited for what you're about to hear. Alex, man, I'm glad to have you, man. How you been?
Oh, JB, thank you so much for having me. Thanks to the entire high level team for spotlighting me and giving me this opportunity and frankly, honor. I see we got a bunch of people here with us live, so I appreciate you giving us your time, your attention. It's the most valuable asset you have. We take that really seriously. We want to deliver for you at high level, and that's really why, I wanted to come on here and share the insights on the masterclass. My goal when I go through these slides is giving you all the information that you need to take action. The whole insight and goal here is going to be that you learn what it's going to take to leverage high level, to make more money, to impact not only yourself, not only your family, not only your team, but also your clients as well. Those are what I call the 4 provisions. And that's what we take really seriously. I've been using high level for a really long time, since 2019. I had Sean and Robin at one of my POD events in 2020. I just had JB speak at one of my events earlier this year. And I'm just really excited to be here and have the opportunity to share this insight with everyone.
And I appreciate you going in depth on that because high level community is small and mighty, but big to many that are just walking in the door for the first time.
For sure.
And there's so many amazing people. You mentioned POD. I'm aware of it. For those that may not be aware of your influence in the space, your relationships in the space, but also what you do full time as an entrepreneur yourself, could you elaborate a little bit about what POD is and what you do to support and help your coaches and your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been running Prospecting on Demand for 8 years now, which is pretty amazing. It's a coaching program and mastermind community for agency owners, SaaSpreneurs, and coaches. The SaaSpreneur angle has exploded over the last 3 or 4 years due to high level. And kind of reality is that people are now able to build a business using high level and doing a low ticket sales model, which is really awesome. And I've spoken at several of the events about it and been platformed multiple times and had high level at our events. But basically what we do in a simple sense is we offer one-to-one mentorship in a way that most people don't, where everyone else seemingly is going kind of an inch deep and a mile wide, like a lot of clients. We do boutique, where we only work with 50 agencies or SaaSpreneurs at a time, so we can really pour into them and create a super valuable experience and an incredible community. So really grateful for it. It's been awesome. It's facilitated the life that I want to live and create a lot of fulfillment for me, and also allowed me to kind of infiltrate this high-level community and support as many people as I can with as much value as possible. So super stoked on it. And I'm going to bring some of that fire for you guys today as well.
You said a word that really stuck out to me and it resonated was fulfillment. Fulfillment, when you're in sales, maybe you start sales for survival, but as you get your bearings and your momentum going, it becomes fulfilling.
No doubt.
It just becomes this second nature part of you. That's what I've experienced. I know we've had these conversations offline.
100%.
But for those of you that are brand new to sales, let us know below because what I want to make sure here, and as you get to know Alex, he's very hands-on. He's going to be looking at the comments. He may not be able to respond back because I'm going to just kind of throw his keyboard to the side here. I want him to really just focus on teaching the part, not engaging with y'all right now. But I promise you that if you reach out to him, you comment, he'll get back to you on his specific
Sure.
expertise. He may even touch on a topic that he sees below. But Alex, what we're going to go over today, it could be a lot for someone brand new. Is there a
For
piece of
sure.
advice that you could share for someone that's consuming this as a newbie?
Yeah, I love it. And I appreciate you saying that. My biggest thing when you're watching this training is you do not have to take every single piece of insight and implement it, right? The minimum goal should be if you're giving us your time and attention, the two most valuable assets that you have, make sure you do something with it versus just taking in information, not being able to do anything with it. When you listen to podcasts, masterclass, YouTubes, you go to coaching, you go to events and you do nothing with it, it creates overwhelm and that overwhelm creates dissatisfaction. That dissatisfaction creates a self-belief that you're not capable of doing it. All you have to do is just take one of the steps. I made it super easy by doing literally 5 steps plus a bonus one, but 5 steps. You don't have to do all 5. You can do one and create revenue from it. And that's the value and idea here. So make sure you do a non-negotiable action after you're done watching this right away. Don't procrastinate on it. The most common decision is indecision. It's procrastination. Look, if HighLevel gave me the choice, I could do probably master classes every single day, 365 days a year for probably 5 years running. I've been doing this a long time. I've been running my marketing agency since 2010. There's a lot of insight I could share, but obviously the big point is how you take that information and execute upon it. So if you are here to execute upon it, make sure you're listening on the one that's going to get you there. It's not, I need to do all of them. It's, I'm going to do this one specifically. And from that, I'm going to yield this result. And when you yield the result, and I want you to hear the word I said, when, not if, when you yield the result, whether it's new sales, new opportunities, new money, new impact, whatever it is, please tell us. Please tell us. We're dedicated to that. We work based off affirmation. We want to know that this is valuable for you. I've done this particular training for my community and they've made a whole bunch of money for it. You can do it too. You just got to implement. That's really what it takes.
And before we kick off into our in-depth training here that you put together, what about those that are your colleagues, right? We consider them, at our level, similar level, or above us,
Sure.
but they may not have our full perspective, your full perspective on something. What is your message to those folks?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of people that are like our peers, I think my message in a general sense is I love the concept of no one is better than anyone for the amount of money they're making, and anyone can learn from anyone. If we come into anything that we're trying to get education from, closed-minded, like we know best, I don't think that really creates an environment for growth and learning. And I had to learn that myself for a long time. Like I pigeonholed myself into I'm the best sales coach possible. No one can be better than me. And I did that for a self-belief so that when I'm on calls, I can do right by the prospect and help them influence a decision that they need. But I realized that that attitude not only created a really, really negative sense of self when, of course, I didn't close every deal because it's impossible to do that. But also on top of that, coming off as more arrogant than confident. And JB, you know me personally, and many people know me personally. I'm not a person that's trying to be arrogant or rude or mean. I'm like a very heart-centered individual. Like I'm a very empathetic person. I really want to help people. I want to lift everyone up. Like one of my mantras of life is like love people when they least expect it and least deserve it, because it's better to be that way than like pitchfork mafia. So regardless of where you're at right now in your life or in your business, have the attitude of giving and taking, regardless of where you're at. If you're a beginner, you probably have value to share on something else in life. And if you're an expert, you have diamond award, platinum award, you've made a whole bunch of money with HighLevel or somewhere else in other businesses, amazing. You could still learn. And that's the concept that I like thinking about all the time.
Awesome. Look, we've kind of got our disclaimers out there, whether it's overwhelmed or how do you know more or better than me? We've ironed that out. Let's get this party started.
Do it.
As you're loading up your screen with your slides, whenever you're watching this, whether there is mentions of seasonal, end of year, beginning of year, this is a mindset shift on building
Right.
opportunity. I want you to jot down in the comments below any aha moments. I want you to share your
Please.
insight or your experience with us as you're consuming this, and I want you to have fun. I want you to have
Yes.
fun because as you get to know Alex, he's a fun guy.
Yes.
Alex, I'm going to put on my audience hat on, my student hat. Take us on the journey, man.
Let's rock and roll, guys. If you're ready for this, drop a 7 in the chat. Let's make this happen. I'm excited. That's my number. It's the lucky number. Seen a bunch of sevens before, by the way. Why not 7 steps to maximize your? I'm trying to not overwhelm you. So we did five. We did five. Truly, it's 6, but it's fine. We'll go with it. So here's the thing. We're going to talk today about 5 steps to maximizing your sales. This is really going to be like the mindset, the strategy, and steps you need to avoid seasonal sales slumps and maximize your revenue year round. We constantly see businesses, especially in the entrepreneur space, like marketing agencies, SaaS companies, coaching products. We see like a very huge discrepancy and volatility on year over year, month over month money. Like sometimes Q1's amazing for people, sometimes Q4 is amazing for people, but there's always seasonality in business, whether it's your business or your prospect's business, and knowing how to handle those things are really, really key. Since we're filming this right now with you guys in Q4, there's some elements about like end of year sales, but all the pragmatic language that I'm using works for any seasonality in business, whether it's Q1, 2, 3, or 4. So check that out. Obviously, this is hosted by myself, Alex Schlinsky, and HighLevel of Prospecting on Demand. Who am I? So as we spoke about already, I'm the founder of Prospecting on Demand. It's a SaaS and agency mastermind and mentorship program. Been doing this for quite some time. This was one of our events last year. We had 150 people, which was super dope. Chase is somewhere in that photo. I don't know where, but he's there. I've run a PI attorney marketing agency for over a decade. I started in 2010. I actually didn't know about it for the first 4 years, which is a fun story another time if you ever want to ask me about it. How did I run a business for 4 years and not know it? Yeah, I was stupid. I don't know how else to say it. I was pretty ignorant is the easiest way to go with it. I've spoken at multiple high-level events now, I think 5, which is amazing and extremely grateful for that opportunity. I love speaking. I love presenting. I love helping all of you guys. I see like a ton of 7s. So I appreciate you guys. And then I also did author the Anti-Hustler's Handbook. Over 1,000 copies have been sold, which I'm super grateful for. Definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, writing the book, but I did it because at the end of the day, I did have open heart surgery in 2020 due to over hustling and overworking. I'm alive and thank God. I do have a beautiful 4-year-old son, and I'm extremely, extremely grateful to be here. And if you ever feel like hustle's the only way, consider the Anti-Hustler's Handbook, antihustlehandbook.com. You can grab a copy, but in general, like you don't have to hustle your way to success. You can figure out what your success is. And if you follow through these steps we're about to break down, you're going to be able to make money. You're going to be able to make impact. You're going to be fulfilled like JB and I were talking about before. What are we going to cover? So first, we'll talk about seasonal sales mindsets, like how to have the appropriate mindset to ensure that you're actually winning. Anyone that listens to this and says, "Oh, that's something I'm not interested in talking about. Oh, it's too woo-woo." Look, at the end of the day, if that's already where you're going into it, you're missing the mark. You're missing the mark. You really have to understand how important it is to know, like, that this is hard. This is not an easy thing to do, and we'll talk about that in a second. All right. How to handle the holiday objections. Particularly, we're going to speak on that. Again, this is for the end of the year, but it's going to work for any seasonality you'll see here in a second. Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals I wanted to talk about a little bit as well. And this works again, even if you do a Black Friday in January, making it up. I'll explain how that works because it will work through the whole year. Maximizing sales opportunities, again, in Q4, but could be Q1. You'll see this insight. And then also a special gift too when you sign up to HighLevel, just to help you a little bit and get you where you need to go. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the seasonal sales mindset. Now, before I talk about any of the bullets here, you might be seeing this really dope HighLevel baseball jersey jacket that I'm repping from the last HighLevel Summit event. And I think there's a really valuable metaphor I want to bring up before anything is shared from this actual deck. Look, I'm not the biggest baseball fan, JB. I don't know, guys, if you're a baseball fan in the chat, let me know. I know the Dodgers just won a couple days ago. Yep. Okay, seeing a couple people that are Dodgers fans, sad Yankee fans. I'm sorry. I'm not a big baseball guy, so it's not really my thing. But I think baseball is really interesting. And I have a piece of this in my book, actually, about, the interest of what sales looks like as a metaphor with baseball. Like pitchers have such a massive advantage over hitters, right? Because that's why the best players on the entire planet, I think the average batting average is 20 or 22%. And if you're like above 25%, you're an all-star. If you're above 27%, you're like one of the 3 best players in the league. And I think the greatest ever, Ty Cobb, I'm pretty sure is what it was, is 34% in a career, which is like really interesting. Like when you come from a grade school model, JB, imagine if you went home and you're like, "Mom, I got a 34 on my algebra test." You'd be like, "What? You failed so miserably." And yet in baseball, right? Wow, you're amazing. And I think a lot of people as sales professionals, particularly, they expect like grade school grading system for sales. And it's just not that. I think baseball's a way better grading system. If you're closing at a consistent 20%, like 20% of your opportunities become clients, you're doing pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. If you're closing 30%, you're really, really good. And you need to hear it from someone that frankly is like, "This is what I do. It's what I coach. I do corporate sales consulting. I I coach people on sales. It's really my main thing. And I think a lot of people like to pump their numbers for ego. They're like, oh, I closed at 50% or I closed at 70%. It's come on, man. Just be realistic. So be realistic with your numbers that make sense for you. And remember that baseball metaphor. The pitcher has a way greater advantage than the batter, meaning the prospect has a way greater advantage. You can learn all the influence, all the tips and tricks, all the insights that I can share. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that are paying with their credit card. You can't manipulate someone and force them. There's no Jedi mind trick to say, JB, give me your credit card right now. Doesn't work that way. So just have that right mindset at the front end. I thought that would be appropriate when I'm repping the high level baseball jersey. Okay. Let's talk the next piece about this in terms of the slides. Now, especially at the end of the year and beginning of the year, sales are just a little bit more challenging. Let's talk about the reasons why and being reasonable about it. I think a lot of people want to have this prophecy, self-fulfilling prophecy, like it's never hard, it's always easy, I can do this. But then I think when you have expectations that don't meet the results, that's where things become way harder. Like people don't talk about the mental health challenges of being an entrepreneur, but that's a really important aspect. Like when you feel on fire and feel like you're on track and feel like you know what it takes to win, that's when you end up winning more. Like it's directly correlated to winning more. If you feel like you should be winning and you should have got that sale and you should, that's when you start winning a lot less. And that's why if you can just make the exception, or if you can accept, excuse me, that sales are likely more challenging at the end of the year and also likely more challenging at the very start of the year, it's okay to recognize that because you're just going to have to work a little bit harder. And what I mean by that, obviously, is the holiday objection. Let's talk after Christmas, or let's talk, in January. Let's talk after the holidays. My budget's already handled. Same thing in January, which is going to be like, oh, my budget's kind of tight. I'm figuring out the budgets. Let's talk in February. Let's talk in March. It's so common that we see this over and over. But you have to remember that seasons are different for every niche, right? So like someone will be like, oh, my business is very busy in the holiday season. What is their business? They put up Christmas lights. Yeah, duh. Yeah, obviously. Oh, my business is slow during the winter. What do? I'm a landscape designer. Yeah, because there's snow all over the ground. So in a general sense, every business has different seasonality, but probably the most common seasonality is going to be November, December, which is a slow down time for a lot of businesses, and January, which is like extreme stress time for how do we make sure we start the year? How do we get everything organized? We're still catching up from holiday season. Those like 3 months, which is basically a quarter of the year when you consider it, November, December, January, they're harder to sell. Like they're just harder to sell for most businesses. So I want you to learn how to handle that today. Okay. I see a lot of agreement, by the way, in the chat. You guys are
I
hearing
was
that.
going to say, you beat me to it, Alex. And I gave you all the warning already that Alex I think he's got like 7 screens in front of him. And I'm
Yeah.
just assuming here, but he's very attention to detail,
Yes.
very attention to detail, and I think that's important. And saying that, Alex, could you help us just understand here? Let's just put yourself in the shoes of coaching somebody who's brand new to sales.
Yeah.
How do you start to train the mind without over consuming hours of YouTube, hours of motivational videos, and excessive amounts of energy drinks?
Yeah.
What
It's all
is a
about
great way to start? Because
It's all
I've
about
done all
golden
three.
hours. Yeah, it's all about golden hours, which is really relevant to like this going through the motions. I think a lot of people, they don't actually take any action out of fear of what that action would look like. They don't go in person. They don't pick up the phone. They don't send cold emails. They don't send messages on LinkedIn because they're worried about, oh, the market is saturated. This message won't work. I need to put the perfect message together. Here's the secret hack that all of you need to be aware of, right? Like we could do a 5-minute masterclass. The 5-minute masterclass is you want to know the only shortcut. The only shortcut is putting a lot of money on ads. If you can't put a lot of money on ads, then you have to do a lot of work, outbound work, and it's ugly, gross, dirty, not fun, not easy. The numbers aren't great. The percentages are very low, but you got to do it. And here's the thing, when you're worried about competition and, oh, I missed the boat, and oh, there's people that are doing so much better than me, and oh, there's this and that. Here's the thing, like most people think that way too, right? So your competition actually isn't doing the work, right? So if it's a pay to play space or just a action to play space, meaning you have to do the work. Think of it. There's so many people that are not even in the arena because they're where you're at right now thinking, I can't do this. I don't know the right message. Just fail forward. Just make yourself look very stupid. Just keep doing the things you need to do. And I'm going to give you very specific things here to do. Do at least one of them consistently over and over and over. And that's really what it means when you're zigging, when everyone else is zagging. Everyone else is, I'm going to plan. I'm going to plan. I'm going to plan. I'm going to plan. And there's just a lot not a lot of doing. There's just not a lot of doing. I'm going to watch another masterclass. I'm going to watch another YouTube video. I'm going to listen to another podcast. I'm going to go walk my dog and think about it. I'm going to journal on it. I'm going to meditate. Okay, how many hours was that? That was 6 hours. What did you do today to create new needle mover opportunities? Nothing. You got to put the work in, right? Revenue generating opportunities every day, golden hours for at least 90 minutes every single day of taking action, and use HighLevel, right? Use it. Use the text blast system, use the automations. And I'm going to show you how to leverage some of these features that will really help you and win, but you've got to leverage it for all seasons for sales to be effective.
Is it safe to say, Alex, if I just put my blinders on, I stay human, I stay true to me, I send out as somebody who's just getting my foot in the door, I send out 10 messages on LinkedIn, I send out 10 messages on Instagram, I send out 10 messages on Facebook Messenger, I send out 10 emails, and I make 10 phone calls. Is that a good place to start versus sending 60 messages on one platform and getting spam banned, or all of them maybe not into the inbox, but instead into the filter
100%,
folder?
100%, 100% better to do that.
And could you just confirm for those, why is that spread better than just going all in on one from your experience?
It's particularly in the front end of your business model that if you spread it out initially and split test a bit, you'll identify what's the thing that's working that you're getting results from, and then you reinvest the time into those things. The challenge that most people have at the front end is they'll invest all of time and energy into one thing, say LinkedIn, and they do it for 2-3 weeks and they don't get any bites, and then they feel that nothing is going to work. But that's a false equivalency, right? It's not actually how like pragmatism and logic actually works. But if you do 5 things with 10 each instead of one thing for 50, you'll know which one's going to actually work, and you can reinvest the time into that specific thing. It's a really good starting strategy, not an ongoing strategy. The starting strategy to figure out which one's going to work for ongoing. That's the idea.
I like that starting strategy. There's something, we all have our story about our experiences, sales, talking to people, building relationships, building rapport, all those things. Everyone's at a different pace. I know my weakness. I don't advertise what my weakness is, but I know where to be coachable. And I appreciate you saying starting, not ongoing. This
That's
isn't
right.
a set it and forget it.
No,
This is a set it, pivot
no,
as needed. Could you
100%.
just help me understand, and in our audience that may be newer to this, just initially here, how does the avatar or the person you want to do business with, how does that play into your starting point?
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, the more that you know your audience, the better that you can be in communication with them and the way you can stick out from the crowd. And in the steps that I'm going to share, there's kind of frameworks that you can use for any niche available to you that will help you be able to actually generate more sales, but you really have to understand their main problems. The main problem for all businesses is going to be the same. Everyone wants to make more money. What's the prerequisite to making more money? Is it more jobs, more patients, more cases, etc.? If you can get into that framework and understanding the insight that you need to speak to them, you're going to win. And obviously AI has made this a million times easier because AI pretty much has all the market research you need. You ask 5 questions to it and bam, you'll have everything. And I think that's a really good way to leverage the opportunity to use what we're going to share on this masterclass.
Yeah. And I just want to frame this because I feel like we're getting the comments below. You can always tell when it's starting to click for a lot of people, right? We have a lot of new faces on here that are not high level users. They've
Gotta
come
be, of
across this because the algorithm, right? You know how that works, and it's
course.
pretty neat. But now, they're doing the starting, they're getting responses. And what could be expected with these responses, right? Whether you're brand new or you're an expert, today's marketplace, could you talk a little bit about objections and pushback and ghosting and what you need to be prepared for this initial get to know you cycle? It used to be the sales cycle. Now
Yeah.
I feel like the get to know you cycle supersedes the actual sales cycle.
For sure. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, like there's this old concept of need 7 touch points and need this, etc. The reality is it's different for every industry. It's different for every single person. And also, it's not just an avatar or niche, it's different for every human being. And it's also different per season. The biggest thing that I try to focus on is my locus of control. I think when we try to get data from other people, whether it's myself or others about, hey, these are the percentages that I'm seeing on LinkedIn, or these are the percentages I'm seeing on cold email, the numbers are very skewed due to the the variables that are outside of our control. Same thing as a baseball metaphor. So the average is different for every person because the skill set is different, right? Some people are inherently great copywriters. Some people have a closer connection to someone that other people don't. So I'm a big believer of you start that strategy yourself with the kind of carpet bomb approach. We'll reach out to multiple people and then we'll start to identify our own KPIs. That's how I end up working. And of course, in coaching and when people work with us, we'll give them based off our shared experience if we think we're on track or way off on standard deviation, like on standard results. But I don't think there's any really effective KPI or number to say, yes, 7 outreaches is the right thing. The reality that you need to hear is you won't get a lot of responses. You will get a lot of get off my, email list responses. You'll get a lot of people annoyed with you, and you'll have a lot of people that will ghost you. But that's part of it, and that's okay. And the more that you work through that, the better you'll be successful. And that's like the mindset you need to have related to why seasons are different for every single niche. And I think that has a lot to do with the stuff that we'll be sharing here.
Awesome. I know we have tons of collateral, tons of content, tons of strategies, and you got tons of energy. So I'm going to put myself back in my seat here and just consume. And it looks like our audience here is feeling the same way as I am. I mean, this is exciting, and I think that now that it's time to take action, I'm ready. What else you got for us?
So let's particularly talk about like holiday objection handling first, because I think objection handling in a general sense is really valuable. And I could frame it for those of you live right now with me for the end of the year. And remember, even if you're watching this in January or February, the insights I'm about to share are still very important, particularly these 3 steps. So let's say that the objection is let's get started in January. Framework of that might be like, hey, I love this. We'll get started in January. Or hey, I'm taking vacation. Let's talk after the holidays, that kind of energy. There's 3 specific steps you need to do. And the reality is this works for every objection, all objections, these 3 steps, okay? Number 1, validate and empathize. Number 2, confirmation and variable isolation. And number 3 is the door 100% closed. I'll explain this like this in a role play in 3, 2, 1. Hey, JB, I totally understand where you're coming from, by the way. It's completely reasonable to say that you want to start in January when you've got another, trip planned and you got holidays upcoming. I totally get it. Don't worry, I'm hearing it a bunch, so I totally respect that. No pressure on my end. I just want to confirm before we, hop off and schedule time for January that if it was like July, like there was no trip planned, it wasn't the end of the year, we'd be moving forward now. This is what you want, just confirming that. Side note, the reason why you need to make that confirmation, it's similar to algebra. If you don't variable isolate or isolate the variable, what ends up happening is, what if they're leveraging this as a push-off objection, and then they come back the next year and they're like, the price is too high. You want to make sure that you've isolated this variable, that this is just the objection they have, which is the holiday objection or seasonal objection or trip objection, right? So once you get clarity that you've isolated the variable, and again, this works for every single objection that you could possibly get. Once they say, yeah, for sure, we'd be working together. It's just a matter of, I got this trip with my kids. I'm taking them to Disney. I need to save the money here, yada, yada. Hey, no worries. Then the last bit, 3, 2, 1. Look, like I said, I completely respect where you're coming from. Obviously, I wish it was July so we could work together now, being transparent with you, but I do have one thing to say. Is the door 100% closed? There's absolutely no chance whatsoever that you would consider moving forward, because if even there's a 1% chance, I have a couple like pragmatic ideas that I think you would want to hear that would provide value to you on why you might want to consider starting first, but only if you're open to it. Zero pressure on my end. Would you be open to hearing that? Everyone's going to say yes. No one's going to be like, no, I don't want to hear it. And then this is where they are. Okay. This is how it works. These are some pragmatic reasons to starting now. Now, again, pragmatic reasons for end of the year can be any pragmatic reason you leverage for other clients, other prospects, other opportunities as well. So let's talk about the end of the year particularly, which would be less competition due to overall niche pausing. It looks something like this. I'm going to role play all of these at once. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hey, so here's the thing, JV, right? I've spoken to a lot of roofers just like you, right? And they're all kind of giving me the same thing. Let's wait until the beginning of the year. Let's wait and yada, yada. Let's wait until after this thing. Let's wait until after this season. And I get that. But if you consider that if the pie, supply and demand pie is saying, hey, I'm going to pull out from this, or I'm not going to be investing into this, you're going to have a lot less competition right now than you would at any other time of the year. Do you consider that? Have you thought about that? Now you'll see here I say, let each point fall into the you're convincing me bucket. If you just do all 4 of them right off the rip, or 3 of them for whatever objection you're handling, you're not going to give them a chance to take that information in. I'll give you a quick example, guys, for you that are live. Check this out. Ready? Listen to what I'm saying. 7, 12, 65, 158, 288, 1, 7, 12, 16. What was the third number I said? How are you going to remember that? If I go through the pragmatic reasons you should start now and give any sort of a strategy or idea of objection handling to a prospect, you have to let them take that information in, right? So when you say, does that make sense if everyone else is pausing, but you take action, you're going to have a big opportunity to maximize the end of the year sales? You want them to say, yeah, that makes sense. So you're falling it into the, you're convincing me, Alex bucket. That's what we want, right? If you think about sales like pragmatically as, or metaphorically rather, two buckets. You're convincing me, you're not convincing me, right? We want the buckets to be filling of, you are convincing me. That's the idea, okay? The other elements here would be like head start moving into the new year, right? Because if everyone is going to be waiting until January, that means January's competition is going to be way higher. It's the same concept with any seasonality of any business. If all of the niche is slowing down, but you zig when everyone else is zagging, they're going to speed up. That's the idea. Tax benefits is strictly just an end of year formula. That one's like the least valuable of the other ones. And obviously it's only for the end of the year. Basically the concept would be you make the investments now, you get the money next year, etc. That's all. So like you have higher expenses this year, but you make the money next year. That's the idea. Also consider lastly, the alternative to an all or nothing approach. And this is so important for all objection handling related to your offer, especially when you're using HighLevel. A lot of people that use HighLevel super successfully, they have a SaaS backend and a front end done for you service like lead generation or SEO or whatever it may be, right? If you package them together and it's $2,500 a month and I want to start, later, you don't have to do all or nothing, right? You can consider the alternative. You can say, hey, instead of doing like everything, why don't we just start with this appetizer, right? Let's just get your missed call text back and website chat widget up. Instead of 2,500, pay me $500. I'll get it live for you. It'll be a no-brainer. You'll be able to maximize your current opportunities, and then we can move forward in 2 months when you're ready. That framework works so well. You really need to leverage it. If you guys enjoy this, can you let me know? Drop a 2. Just want to make sure it's making sense. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
and as we're just getting our pulse check here of how people are resonating with this. When it comes to objection handling, the pragmatic approach, why that approach? There's so many different sales professionals, so many sales coaches, so many sales philosophies, methodologies, strategies. Could you just kind of give us a little bit of context of why this and when do you need to pivot? And again, I just want to add a little bit of context here. Most of our audience are brand new people that are joining HighLevel to sell this to others in their local market, whether it's an
Yeah.
agency or as a software service, subscription-based service.
Yes.
Could you just elaborate on why this works best in your opinion and your expertise?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the other model of objection handling is like emotional pain pointing usually. It's usually something like, "Oh, you don't want your results fast enough." It's like very patronizing. That model in selling just does not work very often, and it really pigeonholes you into being that like used car salesman that a lot of people think you are. The thing is most people make decisions based off of emotions, right? That's a very common thing. And so they're not usually thinking pragmatically. So if you affirm, right? So if we go back here, because I think this is valuable. If you go back and you validate and empathize, that has to be the first step for all objection handling, period. Empathizing with someone, showcasing them, like making them feel heard is so key. If you make them feel heard, you automatically are adding more to the you're convincing me bucket. There's a big difference between essentially, wait, are you dumb? Like, why would you stop? Why would you pause versus, hey, I hear you. Like, it totally makes sense. Are you open to hearing an alternative consideration, right? This pragmatic POV, what it does is it puts you on the side of your prospect instead of being against your prospect. I feel like a lot of standard sales coaching is like a very patronizing or, me versus you model instead of it's me and you versus the problem. And I think doing that gives you a much better chance of the you are convincing me bucket getting filled up. That's really like how I operate in coaching. I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because some people will assume many different things on behalf of their prospect or person they're trying to do
Always,
business with.
always.
And I like how you just kind of iron that wrinkle out. So I know we can go in depth here, and I know
Of
that
course.
with this masterclass, this is the foundation. And for those that are tuned in, whether you get started with HighLevel today or you start using this in your existing HighLevel account, there's more coming to complement this. With what we've learned so far, Alex, where do we go from this point on?
Yeah, I think this point on, the biggest thing is making sure that you take action and steps with this, right? So I'm going to break down these steps for you of exactly what I want you doing to make more money. The commitment, now that you understand the mindset and you know to handle objections in a general sense, is going to be, okay, taking action to actually make more money. Like that's the exact idea that I want you taking from this. Make sense?
Beyond sense. And the most
Love it.
exciting part is that like I'm already a half a page here worth of notes on just one slide.
Nice. I love
I
it.
might have to hold the notebook out, but I think it's important because we could always learn. And you kind of hit this early on. I'm going to go back in my seat here and just kind of let's rock and
Love it.
roll.
So one other a little element that I want to add for seasonality, and I wrote end of year in italics because it could be end of year or any season, but basically just having a very particular story type case study showcasing a client that crushed it during the average time that people are being not, pausing or waiting. So like any seasonality, obviously in this format, it's December season where most of the time they thought I'll pause or wait, but you convinced them to change their mind and they got a great result. If you're brand new to the space and you don't have one, that's fine. This is just like one of those optional things that you want to consider. All right. So, how to maximize in general seasonal sales comes down to basically either we're getting new clients by prioritizing past leads or new leads, getting current clients to upgrade, and getting current clients to refer you. And then here's the specific 5 steps that we're going to dive into. And I'll try to do this kind of rapid fire so you guys can implement from here and taking action. All right. If you're ready for this, drop a 3. I want to see a bunch of 3s in here. I like numbers. That's my thing. I'm okay. I see a lot of 3s. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. All right. So turning past leads into money, that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about. Okay. First of all, you want to start with past leads who said yes or maybe, but they never purchased. Okay. Now, the 4W frames are key. I've done my one call close sales training with HighLevel before. I've done 2 of them, one with Paulson, one with Chase. Just look it up on YouTube. You'll find it. You definitely want to read that, listen to that, and learn more about selling. But in general, the 4Ws are as follows. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? What's the obstacle and what's the urgency? This is basically qualifying frameworks to know like how you can help someone. So as an example, Chris the roofer was having 15 jobs per month. That's the now. They had a goal of doubling the jobs to 30 per month. That's where they want to go. They had relied solely upon word of mouth, which is the obstacle, and they needed to hit 30 by year's end to hire to have more help so he didn't have to do all the work himself, which is the urgency. So here's the exact follow-up framework. I'm giving you the script. You got to leverage it. It's super easy. Again, if you take action on one of these things, you'll make money from this. All right. Hey, name, we last spoke on date. At the time, you noted your number one obstacle in your business was this, and you wanted to achieve this. It's been this number of days since then. Have you overcome the obstacle yet? How's the progress been? Now, keep in mind, this is just a framework. Like you can change up the text in general. It doesn't have to be exactly word for word, but this concept absolutely works. Now, a lot of people be like, but I don't remember the 4Ws. I don't remember the notes that I took. Just leverage an assumed 4Ws based on your knowledge of the industry so you can make it like more esoteric and it will still feel like it fits for them. Because if you say, hey, you wanted more jobs, it's like, yeah, I wanted more jobs. You said you wanted 10 more jobs. Do they really remember 6 months ago that they told you they wanted 10 more jobs? Probably not, right? So what's a common goal they could have likely said to you on a call? And what's a common obstacle they could have likely said to you on the call? Leverage that. A good also reminder is this is why you need to take really good notes on calls. It's really, really important. Money's in the follow-up, okay? Then follow up on a call the next day, okay? Now, when I say follow-up framework, I'm saying like text that and email that, but the next day you got to pick up the phone, okay? I would always try a different number than a text line. This is why HighLevels like different numbers things is amazing. And always, always, always double dial. Always. Spam calls don't double dial. They call the first one and then they go to the next caller or next prospect. Always double dial. You'll have a much higher pickup rate on the second call, okay? Number 2, turn past no's into yeses. Okay. So, especially if you've been doing any sort of prospecting or outreach before, if a prospect has said no to you, they likely said yes to someone else. Meaning, if they had a problem with something, they probably got the solution elsewhere. Do you know if they said yes to someone else? If they did, are they still happy with that? Simple message. And again, I wrote happy holidays for the end of the year, but this can totally be changed. Hey, name, happy new year, or hey, name, how are you? It doesn't have to say happy holidays, right? I want to circle back to see how it's going working with insert the other company or working with the company you chose, whatever it may be. Have you hit the goal yet? One thing that's important. You're not here to undermine other companies or be like, they suck, we're better. That's not a good way to run business. That's not how I'm recommending it. It's just a matter of some people's solution is better than others for certain businesses, and that's okay, right? Now, if you don't know if they went with someone else, if they've made that decision, right? Because they didn't like, a lot of people have they are responsible and say, hey, JB, I'm deciding to, move forward with this company instead. Also, a lot of people will just ghost you straight up and you have no idea what they decided. So if you follow up with them and say, hey, happy holidays again, or happy new year, or hey, how are you? I just wanted to circle back to see if you hit this goal that you told me yet. I know we didn't get the chance to work together back in, July, but if you're still having a tough time, I'd love to make an irresistible offer to you to give me a shot to close out this year and crush Q1. Now, again, this can change based on the seasonality, say to crush the summer months, or to crush March, or to crush whatever it may be, right? Like, this model works very well if you do it. And if you have a high level, you could segment your lists super, super easy to have pass no's, pass leads in the 6 months. That's why the pipeline management's amazing. If you're not using it, what are you doing? What are you doing? And also, please, use my affiliate link. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks. Okay, great. Getting past clients to return is number 3. Okay. If the bridge was not burned, okay, this is obviously important. If you have past clients in any business, if the bridge was not burned, meaning they'll still like you, past clients are a great list to tap right back into it, especially at the end of the year or beginning of the year or summertime. Again, all seasons work. Maybe you have a new offer for them. Perhaps they're in a place to leverage your services more effectively now. Some simple framework might be like, hey, JB, hope you're doing well. Have a few minutes to catch up this week. I'd love to check in and see how you're doing. I have a few ideas to share that may spark additional sales for, again, insert season, summer months, March, Q2, whatever it may be. Also, transparently tell them at the front of the call that you want them back. I miss you. I'd love to have you back as a client. I just want to be upfront about that. Is there any chance we can have that discussion? They're like, we're not really interested in that. Still give them the extra sauce, right? Because if you don't, then the bridge will be burned and you can't leverage this later. Just because a past client from 6 months ago doesn't come back now, doesn't mean they won't come back 6 months later. Think about that. It's really, really important. So those are the first 3. 2 more. Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Now you might be thinking, but Alex, I'm watching this in January. How can I leverage this? That's the benefit. Check this out, okay? First of all, I want you to understand the concept of build once, sell twice. So many offers are based on the time that you have and giving away your time. There's a facade of, I don't want to trade time for money. Everything you do is trading time for money at the end of the day, which is for another day. But in general, if you can make a product, again, you can use HighLevel for this. They have course products, community products. I use them. It's amazing. I strongly recommend it. But if you put together 3, 4, 5 videos instead of time, you've built it once, and you can get sell it an infinite amount of times, right? Ideally, you're not offering more of your time, but some people end up doing it. I've done it myself, of course, as well. Ideally, offering things that add more value versus discounting is going to be the key. If you're adding more value, that would be something like course material or some additional feature with HighLevel or consulting calls, but that would be my last option in my recommendation. If you do end up going the discount model, which is very, very common for like special sales, please do annual upgrades or at least 6 months, okay? This is a super hack for making a lot more money on HighLevel. Obviously, the challenge is when you're selling HighLevel, you're selling a $197 to $397 product usually. But if you get them to buy 10 months in advance and you give them 2 months for free or whatever it might be, as an example, bam, now you've just collected $3,000 or $4,000. Way better. That's the ideal model. Now, this last piece is the key for whether or not you're doing Black Friday or Cyber Monday, whether that date has passed or not. Consider doing a pre or post Black Friday, like a Giving Monday, for example, is something that I always do, where I give my courses out at a pay what you want model or pay what you can to help people that can't afford our coaching, right? Like, you're not going to get my time for it, but I'll give you the course material as an example, right? You can get ahead of the noise and the competition because, as you know, everyone and their mother offers Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals. So it works really, really well for wherever you're at in your business. Okay. This is making sense, guys? You liking this? Let me know, please, in the chat. Want to make sure. Seeing a lot of thumbs up, a lot of emojis. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
And Alex, with this here, when it comes to someone that when they look at this, maybe they're thinking of it as bonus stacking. Could you touch a little bit around how do you leverage bonus stacking? What's something to keep in mind when putting bonuses together and offering those in exchange, instead of a discount, actually more value?
Yeah.
For those that may not be familiar with it particularly, how could you do that with HighLevel?
Yeah.
Your white label version of it.
Yeah. The easiest thing to do would be to add a feature that you normally wouldn't provide. That's normally like an add-on price. So let's say if you added, I'm making this up completely, missed call text back wasn't part of your main feature stack. And you now are going to your, home service businesses and saying, hey, do you know how many missed calls you miss? Like per week? Do you know how many you're missing? Oh, probably 10. I'm like, okay, where do you think those 10 go? Those 10 go to your competitors, and say 20% of those are good quality. If you lost 2 deals, what's the average per deal? $3,000 minimum, right? Up to $10,000 for a new re-roof or more. So let's say on the minimum scale, those calls that you're missing is probably costing you around $3,000 to $6,000 a week, maybe up to more than that, maybe 10,000. So anywhere per month from like $10,000 to $40,000 is being like dropped strictly from missed calls. Normally, my missed call text back service monthly is $297 as an add-on. I'm going to provide that to you for my special included for the entire year if you buy annually from me today. And that's a way to do it instead of offering a discount. And that would work for any specific feature that you would add on. A lot of people end up doing the discount model, JB, just because it's just way more common in sales psychology in general for all businesses, right? That's the most common thing that you see with any offer. All offer specials are a certain percent off. I mean, that's what it is. It's you don't see Winn-Dixie being like, we're going to give you a banana when you buy muffins. Like, it's just not how it works. It's just not a thing. So I prefer it that way, especially in digital selling. But again, like I totally get it. I've done both. I just don't like discounting in a general sense because the theme behind discounting just means that you have margin to spare, which in my opinion means full price isn't fair price. I'm a very big believer that my full price is a fair price and that I'm not price gouging anyone and I'm doing right by them. And I think every human being thinks that's subjective. Some people think 80% margin is fair. Other people think anything above 50 is disgusting. And that's the problem. Everyone has a subjective opinion about it. So to me, if I discount it once, then why wouldn't I be able to discount it forever? It's a facade. It's made up, right? So that's kind of my thought process on it. But in general, I don't judge either way. And I've done it myself both ways. So I totally get it. That makes sense?
So, absolutely. And I love how you mentioned it. So now we're fast forwarding, we're taking action, we're outreaching, we have the sales mindset, we have the pragmatic approach, we're handling things by adding value, not adding discounts.
Yes.
Me going one-to-one, appointment after appointment, as I'm getting started here building or selling my SaaS or my agency services, there's not enough hours in the day.
Oh my
What
gosh.
is a way that we can go, just like, how do we spread our wings just a little bit more?
Dude, you're teeing me up. I don't know if you saw the next slide, but you're teeing me up perfectly. So I wrote this again. It says end of year webinar, but this could be a catch-all webinar. You could change the title. So if you're watching this in January or February, obviously I know all of you live right now can do this before the end of the year because we're filming it in the beginning of November with you guys live. But in general, if you're watching this on replay later on, again, this works at any point in the year. You just have to change the framework. But this is a perfect example, right? You're just going to create and invite all your leads from your list. Again, you're going to use HighLevel, segment them, send them out a list, right? In this format, it would be a special year-end webinar or training sometime like mid-December. You got to do this before the Christmas vacation kicks in. I kind of find that most people's Christmas vacation is like usually like right after the 10th. So like the 11th and on pretty much is almost impossible to get in front of people. So if you can do something like on the 7th, I find that to be like a really great timeline, especially if you're doing this at the end of the year. If you're doing this at the beginning of the year or Q2 or whatever, you just want to put it at a different portion where it's like, hey, we're going to do an end of quarter launch as an example, right? The framing is all going to be about like 3 specific things. Try to do less, like only 3 appetizer style, like these 3 specific things that they can implement right away to crush the end of the year, crush January, crush Q1, crush Q2, crush the summer seasonality, break the summer sales slump. Like all the framing is exactly the same. It's just changing the words. And then this is the key piece, the 2 option close. It's all about transparency selling on the front end, right? You'll start the webinar by saying, look, you guys are here because you want to get this result, like get more patients, get more jobs, get more money, whatever it may be. You're there because you want to hear my insights on how you can do it and take these 3 steps that I'm going to give you. You're going to have 2 options at the end of the webinar. Either 1, you can do it yourself and run with it, which by all means you can. Or 2, you can realize I really don't want to do this myself, but I want the results really badly. Good news, that's what I do at, Prospecting on Demand, and I'll help you with that. Insert your business instead. That type of transparency sets up the prospect for knowing, hey, at the end, they're going to have an offer instead of them feeling gross about it at the end, right? And this is going to end up being why they should work with you versus pushing it off, or why they should give you the money instead of them doing it themselves. And that's how you can spread your wings and maximize all these opportunities into one. So you can get all your people onto a webinar. And remember, this isn't a list measuring contest, okay? You could have 4 people on a webinar, or you can have 150 people on a webinar. Anything that's better than just one-to-one selling, meaning even if there's 2 people on it, that's a win. Don't be upset with yourself if you don't have 50 people on there. It's totally okay, right? I've been in the space for a really, really, really long time, okay? And still sometimes I'll run webinars and there's 35 people on there. And JB, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm so happy about that. I'm not. I'm disappointed in it, but also I need to be grateful that 35 human beings are giving me their time, and I'm going to change my mindset about it instead of whining about it. Again, I totally get it. I know how frustrating I can be, but that's a really, really effective model. I do have one more bonus strategy though, JB.
But
I got
before you
one
get
more.
into that,
Yeah.
do you just because I feel like we're aligned here on where I'm going to go and where you're going to go on this one? So we start to add webinars to this. Could you share a little bit of what you've seen with your students, with your community, with your peers in the industry as they start to do webinars? What have you seen? How do they transform? And then what's the impact of that transformation with attracting
Yeah.
new audiences and then speaking to that audience that they attract?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I actually did this training at the like one-to-many sales training at the May Advanced Mastermind, which was really cool. We did our little podcast there, JB. That was a lot of fun. And the whole concept of it was teaching people that like one-to-one selling mathematically is very overwhelming to achieve high ticket revenue numbers. And it's also just really exhausting. If you don't really like sales, which it's weird, JB, I found a lot of new entrepreneurs, interestingly, really don't like it. They're very intimidated by it, which was very foreign to me because I'm obsessed with it. I love the concept of influencing and coaching and supporting. I love the challenge of it. I love watching someone's brain as it's clearly being influenced by the things I'm saying and I'm doing it ethically. And I'm also a little scared by it too. I'm scared by like how easy it could be to manipulate someone and realizing why people get scammed so much. And I take that responsibility with great respect, ensuring that anyone that I'm coaching or anything I'm doing is with integrity, but not in words, in actions. Because integrity in words is really easy. Integrity in actions a lot harder. So with the clients that are doing the webinars, I would say the first thing that's being very frank and transparent is always disappointment on the numbers. It's always that first. Like I just told you, they'll be like, I did this whole webinar push and thing, etc. And I had 5 people show up. I'm like, okay, how many bought? 2 of them. Okay, but you just did a 1 hour session and you got 2 people to buy. If you did that in one-to-one, you would have had to do 2 hours. And then over time they get better, right? They know how to make sure that the copy is sexy enough for them to show up and make sure that people show up. And the consistency is the key. I used to do a weekly webinar, JB, to sell POD way back in the day in 2018, which was the worst thing ever. It was way too much. But in general, now we do a monthly webinar for POD and it's great. It's super effective. I would recommend for anyone that's starting out doing once a month, like live training sessions, whether it's 3 people, 7 people, or 12, you'll start to learn and get better at getting people to show up, getting people to register, and then getting people to buy on the session. And even if you have to do follow-up thereafter, the follow-up is going to be a lot less than you would if you did one-to-one selling with 20 people.
Yeah. And then, you get really good at that, stages and the one to many. How does that evolve? I just want to give people the finish line, right? You put all
Yeah.
this work in one to one, you evolve to one to many, like stages from the Chamber of Commerce, right?
Yes.
Stages from regional events that people
Yeah.
pay a ticket price, stages for big conferences that are
100%.
known nationally. How
Yes.
does that end up, complementing the bottom line? How does that bring
Oh, I mean,
ROI?
it's massive. I mean, events and speaking for me is more than 25% of our yearly revenue, like easily, simply because association and social proof by association is a big thing. Like HighLevel does not just put anyone on a masterclass. They don't just put anyone on stage. If I am being represented and I'm representing HighLevel by repping this shirt and by, speaking on this masterclass or speaking on stage at any of the events, that means, the people that are listening would feel comfortable in believing that this person's authentic and integrity driven and actually delivers upon what they say, because a lot of business is based off of fear of things actually being legitimate, and like people are worried that they're going to get scammed. And the more and more stages you get, the more social proof you have, and there's really no social proof more powerful than face to face, when pretty much most of the business, 99%, is behind a computer screen, right? JB and I are not here together live right now. We're in 2 different states completely. I mean, obviously, it's incredible what the internet's able to do. And we have all these people from across the world live with us right now. But in general, like when we're in person, it's not even comparable. It's not the same, right? So the more effort you can put into being in person, the better you will be. And it will make a massive impact on your bottom line over the year, no doubt.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because the bigger picture here is not who you know, it's who knows you. And that,
100%.
and correct me if I'm wrong or edit as needed, but the goal is to get really good at what you're doing with meeting people, building relationships that people talk about you when you're not around, and then they buy from you based on that social proof, that relationship proof that is organically created. And then they're inviting you to different events, and now you're selling to many. And really, you're not selling anymore. You're consulting, you're guiding, you're just giving them the information that helps them make the decision they need. And that, after all, from what I've seen in your community and others, that's a fun way to make money, but also make an impact.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely the best way to make an impact. And it's also my favorite thing to do. It's like the most fun thing in business, you know? I don't think there's
So,
anything better than that.
so as we're coming here, to what we have going on with the bonus strategy, can you just touch on what we've learned right now? What are some features within high level that people should really prioritize with managing their pipeline and the conversations to make this happen without going one by one?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the biggest thing is going to be leveraging these text blasts that we're referencing by segmenting the list by past leads, no's, past clients. Those three lists segmenting and sending out these text blasts in a larger purview is key. Now, some of them you'll have to like have custom values for that you can use on HighLevel, which is really cool. Like we put a custom values into our HighLevel about the 4Ws so that it automatically puts in the information of what their obstacle was and what their goal was. And I find that to be really, really cool. In terms of the ones that we're mostly selling as a feature base for our audience and what I'm recommending agencies and SaaS businesses to do, the most consistent one over and over and over is going to be missed call text back, website chat widget, and the review campaigns. Those are the threes that we recommend. But for you, like your agency, your business, it's got to be, has to be 100% the pipeline management, the
Mm.
automated texting, and the automated nurturing. Those frameworks, leveraging those features for yourself are key. The prospecting tool is really cool. Also, we just haven't spoken about it very much today. That's a really good leverage point as well. But those are some of my main ones that I'd advise.
Yeah, I appreciate you touching on those because, right, some people use pen and paper still. Some people haven't even got in depth on the software. No matter what level they're at, it's overwhelming. It's just overload. I think we're due for the bonus. I think we're due for the
Yes.
bonus, and I think we're due for a little bit more of what you have here. If you're okay with it, I'm going to throw the mic back over to you
Yeah,
because I'm feeling good about this. I'm pumped because this is the best time to buy and sell
no doubt.
and help others.
100%. So I got one more bonus strategy for you guys that I think is just really, really valuable. And it's what I call the RGY call framework. Okay. Now, if you already have any current clients, literally any, this could be the single most valuable thing that you do at any point in the year. Okay. So even if you don't have clients right now, make sure you save this, you screenshot this for later as soon as you have clients. Okay. There's 4 opportunities from this call framework. It's feedback, referral, testimonial, and upsell. Feedback means you get insight on how to make your product better, which is great. Referral means they're going to send you over someone that could potentially buy from you. Testimonial means you can use them as social proof for upcoming sales calls you have. And an upsell means they're going to buy a different product from you and increase their average revenue that they're paying you, which is obviously great, right? Now, the easiest way to frame this is either a year-end review, a quarterly review, etc., or a new year game plan session, depending on where you're at in the year. Anything related to that is going to work, right? You always want to prioritize clients that are in green. So the RGY means red, green, and yellow. Red means they're in really bad standing, they're going to leave. Green, they're in good standing, they're going to continue. Yellow, they're kind of wishy-washy. Anyone that is yellow, you want to move them back to green. You just have to ask them transparently, what can I do to make you super satisfied? If someone is red, they're going to leave. It's probably unlikely to get them to stay. Green, you're going to ask them these messages, right? You're going to ask them it. The framework's pretty simple. You're just going to talk about like their satisfaction with working with you. You're going to get an understanding of what challenges they're dealing with. That might give you an upsell. If they're happy with something, you're going to ask them for feedback or, for a testimonial. If you ask them for feedback because you always want to improve, they might give you better insight. And then lastly, you can ask them for a referral. It's just a very simple framework for asking. Here's the script that you'd want to send to get people to come and do this call with you. Hey, Name, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I'd love to do a year-end review with you and a 2025 Q1 game plan call with you ASAP. Are you available tomorrow at chance? It will be a 30-minute call. Let me know. This works any time of the year, though. Let's say this is in March, okay? Hey, hope you had a great month. I'd love to, catch up with you on Q1 and review our game plan for Q2. Are you available tomorrow? Same exact thing. And again, this call, all you're going to do is get an insight of satisfaction and how you can help them more and any way you can get a referral from them. That's the process. It works incredibly well. I cannot recommend this enough. It's probably the most underutilized strategy that I've seen across all businesses to make more money. Like your current clients have a huge, huge way to tap into them and make a ton of money and create a huge amount of impact for yourself and your business.
Awesome. I have a tons of questions, but I want to be respectful of your flow here.
No, you're good.
Our audience has questions below. We'll do our best to get to everything.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll wrap the slides and then because I only have one more. I thought this photo is hilarious, by the way. I love this picture of Chase and Sean and I. Just authentic, right? Just we're cracking up at the event a couple weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. So I do have a gift for all of you in terms of helping you move faster. So if you want the acquisition system that I went through today, you can get our prospecting in a box system because what happens after your end of year sales list? What if you're watching this in January and you're trying to figure out like, how do I curate this for the new year? How do you make sure you can scale consistently? How do you create consistency with acquisition for your agency or SaaS or coaching program? We're going to give you our prospecting in a box system that we put into HighLevel. It's an entire automated workflow. You can grab it right here. I doubt you're going to use the link, but you can go in the QR code. You can go in the show notes. It has all the information that you'll need. You will be signing up for HighLevel on a free trial for it. If you're not on HighLevel, I don't know what you're doing. You got to be on there. It's going to help you a ton. It's going to make your life way better and make your business and your clients' businesses so much more effective and efficient. Leverage it. Use it. It's going to help you make a bunch of money and a bunch of impact. And then when you do, please tell me so I know because I love seeing everyone win.
Awesome. And I think, we'll give everyone here a quick minute just to scan that, right?
For
Because
sure.
if you're on your tablet or your phone and you're unable to scan it, we'll give you a minute there. While we're letting people do that, for someone that just came across this, maybe they're using another platform. Maybe they're getting ready to quit their 9 to 5. Maybe they're getting ready to take their business a little bit more techie than what it is now from pen and paper. Could you just share a little bit around how, in your experience coaching, using it yourself and others, how does HighLevel, whether it's on a mobile component or on a computer web component, how does it kind of complement the human sales methodologies and doing the actual work?
Yeah, I mean it's invaluable, I think is the way to say it. There's so much manual labor required for like effective outbound models, but HighLevel makes things so much easier with automations and custom values. I think a lot of people, especially if you're new to HighLevel, whether you haven't signed up yet or you're going to, it's like there's a consideration or concern about usage. And I want to touch on this as an objection because I think it's really valuable. If you go to Vegas and you go to a really nice buffet, and I'm using that particularly because like I don't want to talk about Golden Corral because HighLevel is not Golden Corral. HighLevel is like the Bacchanal buffet at Caesar's Palace, right? It's like an incredibly nice buffet. But the reality is, JB, I'm 5'5", I'm 145 pounds. I cannot eat everything at the Bacchanal buffet. I can't. I can't. But JB, I paid money, right? I put time in and I want to eat everything, but I can't eat everything. Do you have to have, in order to have an amazing experience, do you have to eat everything at the buffet? No. It's the same thing with HighLevel. It is impossible to use every feature in HighLevel and maximize it that way. The key element is maximizing it for you. That's the really biggest thing. Like when I bought HighLevel originally in I think it was 2019, I originally got it, JB, as a tech stack thing. That was my whole thing. Like I didn't want to have a calendar software and an email software and I just got it for that. And then it ended up being so much more. And people always ask me like, what about this new feature and this thing? It's maybe I'll get to it. I feel like I'm pretty maximized right now. And that does mean sometimes I might miss the boat on some things, but that's okay. Because I think the alternative is you're trying to do everything. When you try to do everything, you get nothing from it. And that's just a crappy, crappy feeling. So if you're not buying or utilizing HighLevel because you're afraid that you're not going to maximize everything, guess what? Get on the train. No one's maximizing it. It's not possible. HighLevel's team is not maximizing it because that's their skateboard model, right? There's too many things and features to use. You just want to use the ones that are most effective for you, which is why JB asked that question of me and why I'm telling you, hey, if you want to use it for prospecting in a box or you want to use it so that you can get better reviews for your clients or missed call text back, you don't have to use every single thing. I know people that are literally running a $50,000 a month SaaS business just selling the website chat widget and missed call text back. That is, I don't even think that's 1% of the amount of features that HighLevel has, but they're doing it and focusing on it and winning. And that's it. That's how it works. You don't have to eat everything at the buffet. You don't have to use every feature, but you need to be on HighLevel.
Yeah. And I appreciate you going in depth on that. And you have below here the last bullet point, which is for to experience a trial. They get a trial to experience HighLevel, and then from there they can decide if they want to continue it or not. I know you have a couple of bonuses for those that maybe want to upgrade with you. We can include an additional slide on that here shortly. But I want to just fire through some questions as we wrap this up here. Are you
Please.
okay with that? Do you mind?
100%.
So, question one that I'm seeing here is, how many no's do you take before you say, see you, wouldn't want to be you?
That's so good. How many no's would I take? I think the reality is, for especially for newer businesses, most people don't realize that you get very few no's. So the actual most common answer to, there's three possible answers to everything, which is yes, obviously we want that. Maybe, which is the most common, and no, which is very, very uncommon. Maybe is anything that's not yes or no. So let me think about it. Get back to me in 2 weeks. I need to talk to my partner. Any of those types of things. So there's also two different types of no's. So I'll make this easy for you guys to understand, like how I operate in business. To simplify things, I consider it in 4 steps, right? What's my offer? What's my prospecting model? What's my sales process? And what's my fulfillment process? So prospecting and sales is really where you're going to get no's and yeses, etc. So on prospecting, when you're saying outbound, can I have a call with you? You might get a lot more no's. When you're in a sales conversation, you're end up going to actually get a lot less no's. Like the large majority of your conversations will be maybes, very few no's, because a lot of people don't have the audacity to say, hey, JB, I don't think this is right for me. Mostly because they don't want to end up having to be like JB arguing why it is right for them. So in general, they just say, yeah, I'll think about it. And then they hang up and they're like, I'm never going to buy that. And then they ghost you, right? So in general, I'm just an audacious person. I believe in the audacious ask and just being transparent. It's like giving them the door to know that they can say no instead of saying maybe, because you're going to get a lot of maybes. In terms of, I'm also a believer of, and again, only in business, it's really important that you take that literally, like very important. But in general, if someone says no to me in business, I'll say it's no now, right? It's just no for now. Doesn't mean no forever. I like to get that clarity and then understand when would be the next appropriate time to reach back out. And you're probably not going to be happy with the answer. It might be 6 months, but guess what? You're still going to be in the game. And then you're going to have a little task notification from you in HighLevel. 6 months later, it's, hey, follow up with this David Blaine guy. And you're like, who's that? And then you click on it and you go to the notes. You're like, hey, there's the notes. I remember who he is now. And then you do the stuff that I shared with you on the session.
And when it comes to that part, that's a big part of the sales mindset.
No
When it
doubt.
comes to the nurture part of how you're seeing and how you're teaching and how you're helping others, what's a good foundation to kind of create your nurture campaign around? Is it scarcity? Is it
Yeah.
timeline? Or is it
Yeah.
more just value? Like, hey, this
Yeah.
is what we're doing new. Is it showcasing,
Yeah, I'm a big
testimonials?
value-based type guy. I think like scarcity and urgency is so often used inappropriately. It's because it's a facade or contrived. And I think it removes yourself from authenticity. Like I want to be the most authentic person possible in selling. And anytime that I do something that's contrived, that's where it ends up being like really not a good experience. If you have legitimate scarcity or urgency, whether it's like an offer that's short term or a Black Friday thing, etc., that's fine. Then leverage it. But in a general sense, I like to find like celebrating wins and always making sure that when I'm celebrating wins, I'm not taking ownership of the wins. It's not because of me, it's what they did to get the win. And I think that's the key piece. Like when you come across as I'm taking responsibility for the wins, people don't really respect that as much. But when you leverage it, hey, this person reminded me of you, they took action with this, got this result. You can do this too. If you need help, let me know. That's kind of the framework in which I do most of my follow-ups on.
I got 30 more questions to go, but that's another day. That's another masterclass. That's another reason to stay in touch with you because I appreciate as much as you love sales and you take it very serious, you don't make it overwhelming and scary for those that are new to it or are learning it.
Appreciate that.
And
Of
I think that's so important. I want to wrap this up if you're okay with it with some
course.
closing advice. For
Please.
someone that's tuning in, whether they were watching from the beginning, they jumped in towards the end, or they jumped into these last 7 minutes of what we've been going over. What's some advice, some wisdom that you could share with them on why or how sales can change their business, their personal life, and their business life?
Look, I mean, like sales is the most important muscle to continue to practice upon for entrepreneurs and human beings in general. Like sales is influencing, right? And like having the capability and power of influencing and the responsibility as well is key to success. Sales is not just a financial exchange of goods or services. Sales is getting someone to see your POV and doing it for the best benefit of them, right? And so when I take that really seriously, because I got a message, JB, an email I can't show it because I don't have it redacted, but I could show it to you after this. It was really funny. I met someone at the HighLevel event and I scheduled a meeting with them after the event, and I got a cancellation of that call, and they sent me an email under it and said, "Hey, I canceled the call because I spoke to a current client of yours while I was at the event, and they said that if I got on a call, I'd likely buy from you, and I'm just not ready for that, and I would really love to have that skill." And I was cracking up at that because I thought it was really funny, but in a general sense, I take that responsibility really seriously. I do believe that I'm very capable of influencing decisions, but I also have to do that appropriately and not manipulating people. And I'm not perfect by any means. Of course, I've done that before when I was younger and everything, and I try really hard to not be that person. But I find like a lot of people that say they're not good at sales, it's they're wondering why they're struggling in their life in a general sense. Decision making is overwhelming when you have so many stimulus happening every single second of the day. You've got your phone, you've got your computer, you've got your children, you got your devices, you got your family, you got your wife, you got your husband, you've got all these things, all these decisions to make, big and small. And if you have no capability of influencing someone else's decision, whether it's you don't want your daughter to go out that guy, you don't want to, take that family trip, you don't want to, have them do XYZ, or you want them to go do these things, what ends up happening? Like, you're just not going to be able to live life on your terms. And so I feel like sales provides you the opportunity to live life on your terms. It just comes with a really important responsibility to also do right by other people and make sure that you are not prioritizing other people's money in your pocket, even if you have that capability. That's probably the most important thing that I would say related to selling.
Thank you very much for that. And to our audience, thank you for spending time with us. As Alex has said
Yes, thank you
before,
so much.
time is very valuable, and you spent it, whether it's all of it or some of it, or even just up to now. We appreciate it. Make sure you watch the replay. If you watch the replay, comment while you do hashtag replay. Let us know. If you find that this is going to be helpful for someone that you know, share it. It's on our
Please.
YouTube. It'll be on our Facebook. Feel free to reach out to Alex. Alex, what do you usually use? Are you more of an Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook?
Facebook. I say Facebook, Instagram too, but mostly Facebook and YouTube. If you want to go on YouTube, please help me out. That'd be great. I'd love it. Schlinsky on YouTube. Can't miss me.
There you go. There you go. Look, that's all I have on my end. Alex, you've been very generous with your time. It's been fun. To our audience, thank you for lending us your ears. We got so much more coming.
Yes.
And if you're not ready for it yet, buckle up, because this rocket ship is getting ready to roll.
Yes.
Alex, I know we got some bonuses. I know we got some information that you're going to be sharing in the description below on your affiliate link. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Until next time, we'll see ya. Alex, it was a pleasure, man.
So good seeing you. Thank you guys. Appreciate y'all.